How many versions of yourself have you imagined?
It's got to be more than a handful. I mean, there's the organized me, the on-time me, the me that just sings like no one's listening.
There's the me that made a life being an artist rather than being an accountant. There's another one who led a life less ordinary, but way more organized.
Yeah. But it's like every birthday, every New Year's, every Monday, every opportunity for that perfect reset. I think I honestly started to believe that me was going to finally show up, but I'm still waiting for her.
Today, we're talking about the version of ourselves that thought we'd be like everybody else by now. This is Angry on the Inside. I'm Jess.
And I'm Jeannine. We're both certified ADHD coaches, but this podcast isn't coaching.
It's not therapy, and it's not medical advice.
It's real, honest conversations about being women with late diagnosed ADHD and everything that goes along with it.
Take what resonates and leave the rest. Hey, birthday girl.
Hey, birthday girl, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking.
How was your birthday?
My birthday was quite glorious. I had a cookie cake and all things were right with the world. How about you?
I had a great cake too, but mine was a big one. It ends in a 9.
Oh, did the 9s bug you?
Yeah, I know I shouldn't care, but what can I do?
You're allowed to have the feels.
I should think that, yeah. I think that's what got us talking about this, about all the different versions of us. Birthdays are these weird markers, and it's not because of the age itself, at least not most of the time, but because there is this number attached to all the years you've been carrying around these ideas about who you thought you were going to be at this point in your life. And your birthday year ends in a 9, and you're like, shit, I'm none of those things yet.
I totally get that. Sometimes it is about age. I know a lot of people have issues with 30, but I had issues with 35. And I'm still not really sure why, but I know that I did. It holds some weight. And at some point, it's kind of hard not to look at all of those years of expectation and be like, ooh, what the shit just happened? I'm not saying that your life has to be bad to be experiencing this. It could be bad, but it doesn't have to be. And it doesn't have to be because you're ashamed of where you are, though a lot of us carry a lot of shame and sadness in those lost expectations of ourselves, or those expectations that other people maybe carried for us. I think it kind of stems from there being all these versions of you that you were so sure you'd eventually become.
And I think the birthday is just a reminder after enough years, it's really hard to not feel hopeless about it. For me, I start wondering, like, am I ever going to become her?
This can be a sort of a chapter of grief, like after your ADHD diagnosis. It's pretty common, especially as we become older. For me, the harder question was, did I really want to be any of the versions of myself that I was daydreaming about? Either way, whether I did or didn't, I still picked all that shit up and carried it around like it was mine to bear.
You're self-reflective earlier than I was. At that time, I don't think I even questioned, did I want to become that person? Which actually is a really good question. But I think it's hard enough when you have ADHD, but we know how much harder it is when you don't even know you have ADHD, because we know that our brain is always working so hard just to keep up. And I don't think I realized how many future versions of myself I'd been carrying until we started talking about it. There's always the one day my life will be organized. The house will be organized. One day I'll finally be able to organize that paperwork instead of finding it in the bottom of a drawer like 8 months later with the bill that never got paid. Or I would be exercising consistently, which I swear every birthday I'm getting older. I got to start exercising more consistently. Go buy the membership, buy the exercise equipment, and then the next birthday rolls around and I'm just not that person yet, that version of me that I want to be. It adds a whole nother layer on yourself, all these expectations. You're not just supposed to be taking care of yourself. You're supposed to be taking care of them.
This is where it becomes so complicated, because your future self isn't just this nice daydream. She becomes like this ruler of your everyday thoughts, every single day. Current you gets measured up against future you. and who you are going to be and what you are going to accomplish. In the ADHD brain, we talk about that now and not now. It's so easy to push it out. I will be this person. I will reach these points. And then we push it back. But in turn, we also see everyone else making these accomplishments. For me, it was always very much a financial accomplishment. I would look at other people and they essentially had their shit together, whatever you want to say, and they were able to go on vacations and do these things, but they also had structure. They had scaffolding and they had people there holding them up and helping them along in ways that I didn't. That future Jess was just very looming over top of me. Every single day, current you gets measured up against her. She's imaginary, and imaginary people don't leave dishes in the sink.
I bet you she's never forgotten to defrost a chicken.
Never. Not once in her entire fictional life. But I will tell you, she was a judgmental bitch.
I know. God. And every year when I wasn't her, she'd look at me and be like, nope, still not me. Just work a little harder. It's not just birthdays or even New Year's. There's this whole other category of these quiet promises, the ones that we don't say out loud. We just them to ourselves.
Those mantras you have running in your head.
Exactly.
This project is done. I'll get this done. I'll get this taken care of.
I'll get my life together. After the kids are older, things will be easier.
After we move, blah, blah, blah.
After vacation, I have to admit, I've thought that a lot too. I'm going to go on vacation and I'm going to have this great reset. When I come back, I'm going to be a new woman and I'm going to be on top of things. Everything's going to be great.
We talked a little bit about this in the moving episode a while back, this idea that we treat our circumstances like it's the thing standing between us and becoming ourselves. There's some finish line, and the second we cross it, poof, there's a transformation.
In the old map, new life episode, we talked about always navigating by a map of a person who doesn't even exist, but we're trying to follow her map.
Right? The goalpost keeps getting pushed back. This is the perfectionist cycle poking out at all of us. I have to wait until the circumstances are just right. We walk around with this Goldilocks complex and we don't realize it. I don't know when a good time to get back to this person is. I don't know how long I should wait to return that phone call. We're trying to navigate and regulate, everybody regulate their reactions to us, make sure we're not being rude. And it's just a moving target. We will continue to chase this forever and ever unless we can change our perspectives and our approach.
I've been thinking about why we hang on to this imaginary future version of ourselves. I mean, like, for so long, we could be chasing it forever. Because I don't think it's just wishful thinking. And I don't think I kept imagining her because I hated who I was. I think I needed to believe that she was coming.
It's because as long as she's coming, there's always a chance of it getting better, that it won't remain the same, that it won't be stagnant. There's always a chance. And I love to hold on to a chance.
Because it's hopeful. I know things are hard now, but just wait. I'm going to figure this all out. And when I do, I won't feel like I'm constantly behind. I won't feel like I'm disappointing people or myself. And I won't have this running list in my head of 24/7 of all the things I should be doing better at. No, it's the someday. Someday I will be. Someday it will be. Things will just be better. I'll be better. I'll be more on top of things. Life will finally fall into place.
Some of those some days do come. I used to think someday I'm going to be the kind of person who remembers to send a thank you note and doesn't reach a point where they're so embarrassed that they feel like they can't send it anymore. And I actually do that now. I've overcompensated because I send everybody a card. I do not expect to get one back, but I send out like full on birthday messages to my loved ones, people that I care about. I make sure I'm on point with those things. That is something I was never on point with. It did change. So I'm not saying that it's stagnant, that it'll never change, but we tend to think in very large brushstrokes when it comes to our life, that it all just magically changes. We don't like to see the itty bitty pieces that all add up. We want to see that big bang change, knowing that it's ahead, knowing there's still a possibility, that there's still that chance. That's what keeps us going.
You lost me at the thank you cards, but there are some things that for some reason I can keep my car clean now. I don't know how that happened, but
Nice.
Yeah, but God, the thank you notes, the birthday cards, ugh.
There's something comforting about believing that eventually you're going to graduate out of all of this.
It's like ADHD puberty. At some point, I will emerge fully formed with a clean kitchen, functioning filing system. I will know where everything is. I'll always be on time.
And apparently you'd also have an intimate knowledge of where all your passwords are too.
Yeah. Okay, Jess, let's not make this completely unrealistic. But seriously, though, there was always this idea that when I finally became her, I could relax. I wouldn't have to work so hard to keep up. I wouldn't have to hide the things I struggled with.
That's where the masking comes into it as well, because if you spent so many years trying to look more organized and capable and like you've got your shit together, you can actually feel the fantasy becoming one day I won't have to pretend anymore because I'll actually be that person.
Oh my God, it wasn't one day I'll stop masking. It was one day the mask will finally,
Become my face. Yeah. Kind of like the Jim Carrey version. We just hoped it would wrap around and we wouldn't be able to get it off of our head. It would become us. But we all know how that movie ended. So, ugh.
The truth is, though, saying it out loud, it sounds a little depressing.
It is. It's exactly why the imaginary future self can be so hard to let go of. She isn't just some perfect woman we're aspiring to be. She represents relief, but she represents us, our highest version.
Yeah, who we believe in or who we want to be. And I think it is that then you'll have the relief from constantly feeling bad about yourself, or you won't have to try so goddamn hard all the time. It's just because you haven't tried hard enough.
Right? I tell you what, if you could throat punch somebody without getting in trouble for it, yeah, I mean, for real. But there it is. There it is.
Exactly. Of course it is. That's always the answer for everything, isn't it? Just try harder.
It is. God. Yeah. I'd say something that becomes frustrating for me is every once in a while my ADHD will give me what I consider just enough evidence to believe that these versions, these expectations of me actually exist.
Yeah. Because you'll have this great week.
I'll have a phenomenal week.
And we all know that week. On top of everything, you're actually using that planner. Your house is relatively clean. You remember to make the doctor's appointments, the vet appointments, you're answering your emails, you're paying your bills. You've even actually worked out a couple times. And all I remember thinking is like, oh my God, this is it. She's here.
It's like, oh, he's here. He's finally here.
I have cracked the code, and whatever I did this week, I'm going to keep on doing this for the rest of my life.
I know those minutes where all of that feels so completely possible because my ADHD never consistent in any way, shape, or form. The only consistency is that it is inconsistent. But there are times when my planning, my organization, my prioritization, all of these things do meld and mesh and go well. And it seems like, I know it probably sounds like we're zeroing in on that executive function portion and that woman looming in our heads of what we want to be. But I also want to bring in the idea that it's not just that. It is all the women we wanted to be. It's the artist that we wanted to be. It's the mother that we wanted to be. It's all of these things. And if we had the capacity, we could spread out and do all these things. It's the times where we wanted to be not responsible, where we wanted to be able to spread out and be all the glorious ADHD that we are. It's wanting to let all of that pour out of you like paint and just spread it all across the world. Let everyone know how amazing you are. All of these things that are trapped inside of you that you've had to hold on to because you're masking. And maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's not a case of that woman looking down at you, but there's so many other women in your head looking up at you, just wanting a chance to be seen and wanting a chance to be on the outside, wanting to be you. Who are you?
Yeah.
Are you excitable? Are you emotional? All of those things are wonderful. Are you a little bit slutty? Are you a little bit prude? Who cares? It doesn't matter because being able to exude those things and let those women out, let those women live those versions of you instead of acting like you think you're supposed to act, that is the other side of this coin.
That's what's confusing is some days you see some glimpses of that person. The problem is it's a glimpse. Sometimes it doesn't, as you said, it's consistently inconsistent.
Instead of that good week teaching you like my capacity changes, it becomes more like proof. I can do these things.
But then the next week happens.
She's left the building.
And didn't leave a forwarding address.
That's why I say, I want to let all the other girls out. I want all the other ones to come out and just let their little freak flag fly. I want the over-emotional me that's unapologetic. I want all those versions of me that I think about when I have an argument and I think of all the different things I should have said, but I didn't because I thought I had to help somebody else or be kind or do things. I want that person to be out and running around sometime. How much fun would that be? But the part that matters is that no matter who's coming out and no matter what we're doing, we are going to be inconsistent. And embracing that inconsistency and knowing that it doesn't make us less than, that's a hard road.
Yeah, it is. We ask ourselves all the time, so what went wrong? I was doing okay, now suddenly I'm not.
That's how those deep fantasy lives in our brains keep themselves active. They keep themselves alive because the good week doesn't teach you to trust yourself. It doesn't teach you to stop listening to the devil on your left and the angel on your right. Sometimes it does the opposite. It gives you a glimpse of this imaginary future self and it makes you think she is obtainable. And she is in some ways, but is she what you want?
No. Which is brutal because the evidence could have been, I had a good week. That's great. But instead, somehow the evidence becomes, this is who I could be if I would just stop screwing up. If I would just try hard.
Then we throw in that ADHD tendency of all or nothing thinking. And there being no middle ground, we collect all of those extremes and it's so self-impacting. And we both know it.
Yeah. The black and white. Either we're going to be 100% her or we have completely blown it. What a diagnosis starts to change. Because I think for the first time, you can start to look back at all those good weeks and all the bad weeks and really just stop asking, like, why can't I just stay that version of myself?
In that moment, it's time to start asking some very different questions. What if that version of you was never the standard you were supposed to maintain in the first place? What if that version of you wasn't the version you wanted? What if it was what everybody else wanted?
No, because got to think on that one for a minute, or just because it does really just change everything. It is that realization that you've been, 30, 40 years of running a race against someone who was never even running the same course as you. That is a huge realization.
Right? Ain't that about a bitch?
Did you just say something about that bitch or take that?
No,
that
I said, ain't that about a bitch?
Oh, I thought you were like saying, take that bitch.
No, I said, ain't that about a bitch?
Like, you're not even on the same course as me. Get off. Yeah. Leave me alone. I thought it was funny.
Outside of the relief and explanations that diagnosis brings, it also brings in grief.
Not just grief for the loss. It's something like different. It's really hard to explain because I know for me, it was this grief for a future that never even existed. It was never going to be possible.
You don't even get to mourn a memory. You're mourning an imagined life that was never real to begin with. It's a weird kind of loss. It's intangible, but it felt so real. Even though you can't put your hands on it, it still feels so real in your mind. And that's where grief starts to tie in. It's a bumpy road while you start to reflect and sort out what you want. I've heard some people say, I have all of my buckets. I just don't know where everything is supposed to go. I don't know where to put everything. And that sorting out and that it just takes so much time.
I think it looked different for people. For some, it was, I was going to be further along in my career, or I thought motherhood would be so much easier. I thought my marriage was going to be different. I'd have more confidence by now. For me, I just thought adulthood was at least supposed to get easier.
That's the weird part. How do you grieve something that technically never happened and yet somehow still feels like something you lost?
And it was never going to be.
Mm-mm.
Yep. So I think it starts to get complicated because if you start to let go of this woman that you thought you were supposed to become, it leaves this weird empty space. Okay, if I'm not trying to become her anymore, then who exactly am I becoming?
Who did you become while you were so busy looking for her? You didn't spend 30, 40, 50 years becoming nobody. You are a somebody. But while you're focused on all of that, you can completely miss the person who's actually been developing underneath it. You keep the score based on what she has that you don't. She's more organized, more consistent. She finishes things up. But you are somebody. Who did you become? Why are we spending so much time thinking about what we didn't become and not taking the moment to give ourselves our own accolades for what we have become and the things that we are? we ignore what we are because we're always trying to reach that next level, that next bar.
Resilience is a big one for me. Not in the inspirational poster way. And I don't mean like, oh, ADHD made me resilient, and therefore I'm so grateful for all the hard stuff. That is definitely not it.
No. That would be like when people say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Because,
Exactly.
dude, I am fucked up by the stuff that did not make me stronger and that did not kill me. I am not okay.
I look back now about how many times I believed I was completely screwed. I wasn't going to figure something out. And then somehow along the way, I figured it out. Not the way I thought I was supposed to, usually not in an elegant way, but I definitely did figure it out.
Because you are resourceful. But you did keep figuring that shit out. So high five you.
I know, what can I say?
An important distinction. We're not saying that ADHD secretly gave you a bunch of superpowers. We're saying you lived a life where you had to adapt constantly and often without even understanding why you had to adapt.
I spent years creating these weird little workarounds without realizing that that's what I was doing.
You couldn't always use the obvious route, and it looked ridiculous to somebody else. Sometimes it looked ridiculous to you. Either way, it worked.
Yeah, so true. Oh, I noticed since my diagnosis, I'm a lot more compassionate about other people's struggles more than I used to be. If somebody tells me they're having a hard time with something that seems easy to everybody else, I don't automatically think, well, just try harder, because I know what it feels like to be trying so hard and still have people assume that you're not trying at all. There are definitely things about having ADHD that have made my life generally harder, things that I would absolutely have preferred not to struggle with.
This isn't like, surprise, ADHD was actually a gift the whole time, because it creates its own struggles. And a lot of times those gifts that were given via ADHD, they get muffled down because we have to mask.
You were adapting and recovering, improvising and starting all over again. You've never really stopped to notice who she actually is.
The primary objective isn't to turn current you into some better future version. For me, it was about getting curious about current me and really learning to understand myself, learning to fall back in love with myself and understand who I am and how I want to be.
That's the part that a diagnosis really started to open up for me. Success was never supposed to mean being the woman who finally has everything under control. The definition was way too narrow. One of the biggest shifts for me since being diagnosed, spent decades chasing this imaginary woman, the laminated checklist version of myself. And I was so focused on becoming her that I don't think I ever really stopped to ask, who was I? And what did I actually want?
The question was always, how do I become better at being the person I'm supposed to be?
More organized, less emotional, more consistent, just, easier, just better at being a normal person.
Whatever the hell that means.
Right. Something else I've realized that isn't particularly comfortable to admit, but I don't think I was only selling that future version of me to myself. I think sometimes I was selling her to other people too. It's like, I know I'm struggling right now. I know I'm overwhelmed. I know I'm not following through the way I said I would, but hang on. Future Jeannine is coming. She's going to get this all figured out. So just hang on.
So almost like, please don't judge me based on who I am right now. There's a better version coming.
Exactly. Please don't give up on me yet. I'm going to get better at this. And I don't think I ever actually said those words, but looking back, I think that's how I lived. I think that's how I interacted with others.
I get that. It makes me sad to think about it. Underneath that is this assumption that current you wasn't quite enough to build a life around.
I can remember one time my ex and I don't know what we're even arguing about, but I remember him saying, I feel like I've been sold a bill of goods.
Jag off.
That one really landed hard.
Landed hard because it was a shitty thing to say. He can get over himself.
I will tell you, it did take a lot of therapy to let that one go.
That's fair. I will tell you, in my imagination, there is a version of Sonny somewhere who actually tried a little harder himself. But,
Ooh, too funny. For a long time, I heard that comment as confirmation of everything that I believed about myself. Like, see, you fooled somebody into thinking, someone who's supposed to love you, you fooled them into thinking that you were better than you actually are.
It's very easy for others to make us believe that we aren't at that level. We've talked about relationships and the pitfalls for women with ADHD and the people that we can attract.
Now I look at it so differently because I don't think I intentionally sold anybody anything. I think I believed it too. I genuinely believed that someday I was going to be more organized, more consistent, less overwhelmed, and all those things that I thought would finally make my life easier and finally make me easier to live with.
See, that's funny. Maybe you weren't the easiest person to live with because you were too busy giving your capacity over to everybody else.
Yeah, just didn't know it at the time. So it's been huge for me. I'm not that 25-year-old anymore. I'm not waiting to become this woman that I thought I was supposed to be. And I can't go back and I can't rewrite those years, but I can decide now how am I going to spend the next 20 or 30 years? Because I don't want to be doing the same thing. I'm not saying that this is me, nothing's going to change and everyone just has to deal with it. Still think of the ways that I want to grow and the things that I want to work on and the things that ADHD makes harder for me that I absolutely want to find a way to manage them better.
We can change the questions that diagnosis brings to our doorstep. Instead of asking, how do I finally become the person? How do I finally become that person? We can change to, why did I think I had to become her in the first place?
Looking at the growth versus being somebody else. Those are completely separate. And I can want things to change without believing something fundamentally wrong with the person who I am now. That changes relationships too, because I'm not trying quite so hard anymore to become easier for everybody else.
It is. It's a big deal. Self-work, self-love, that translates over into our relationships.
It finally dawned on me, I can have needs. I get to set boundaries. I can expect a partner to respect me and I can say something when they don't. And I don't have to keep thinking once I get myself together, then I will deserve those things.
That's one of those little hidden promises of the imaginary future self. When I become her, then I get to ask for what I need. I validated my worth.
The sad thing is I didn't realize it at the time. It was always when I'm less forgetful, when I'm less emotional, when I'm easier to deal with, then I have earned the right to take up some space.
The hard part is learning and recognizing that you are allowed to take up space the entire time.
That does make me a little bit angry. While I was waiting for all those other versions of me to show up, there are times that I let the current version of me just be dismissed or treated in ways that I wouldn't accept now. Somewhere underneath all of it, I still thought I was the problem that needed to be fixed.
This is why it's important to listen to each other's journeys and the different versions of the lives that we've lived. It's one of those unexpected things that diagnosis gives you. It's not being a new person. It's a more accurate understanding of the person you already are, the person you've become over this lifetime.
It gives you a future.
Deciding who you want to become, not because current you is a failed version.
No, it's because I'm still growing. I don't think I've become the woman I imagined I'd be when I was 25, and I'm okay with that now. I think I'm beginning to like the woman I have become.
Do you find yourself wishing that was your goal the entire time?
Yeah, it should have been. It wasn't, but it is now.
I think that's beautiful, Jeannine. Would you say at this point the goal isn't becoming her?
I think it's about finally letting her go.
Figuring out who the hell's been standing here this whole time. If this episode resonated with you, send it to another ADHD woman who might be ready to fall in love with the version of herself that she already is.
Until next time, remember, you're not alone and you're not the only one who's angry on the inside.